My dear friend, pause right where you are, whether you're sitting in a dimly lit room, riding a crowded bus through the city, or standing in the quiet storm of your own heart. Let's get real, soul to soul, heart to heart, like we're sitting across from each other, sharing the truth only God can see. What's keeping you awake when the world falls silent? Is it the weight of dreams that feel like stars too distant to touch, twinkling just beyond your grasp? Maybe it's the sting of rejection, cutting deeper than any blade, or the pressure of bills piling up like a mountain you can't climb, each one a reminder of the fight you're in. Perhaps it's the quiet ache of wondering if you're enough, if your life matters, if God still sees you in the mess of it all. What's your name? Where are you at right now in a bustling city that never sleeps? A small town where time drags like a heavy chain, or a corner of your mind where hope feels like a flickering candle? What's the fight you're facing today, the one that makes your knees tremble? Your heart race, but your spirit yearn for something greater. I'm talking to you, the one pushing through the fog, wrestling with the question of what it means to live as a high-value person, a soul handcrafted by the Creator himself, molded in his image for a purpose that echoes through eternity. You didn't stumble here by chance, my friend. God's got a divine appointment with you, a sacred calling to rise above the chaos, to step into the greatness He wove into your very being before the foundations of the world were laid. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 affirms, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That's God's voice, not whispering but thundering through the heavens, declaring that you're destined for a purpose that shakes the earth, lights up the darkness, and glorifies His name. You're not here to just survive, you're here to thrive, to shine, to reflect His light in a world starving for hope, desperate for healing, and crying out for truth. So lean in, my friend. Let's dive deeper than the ocean's depths, higher than the stars. Reach into the signs that you're becoming the person God created you to be, walking in His truth, healing through His grace, and lifting others along the way. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's God stirring in your soul today? What's your name, and what's He calling you to become? Let's start this journey together, hand in hand, heart to heart, growing in His love, ready to transform not just ourselves, but the world around us. Sign number 1, you stop judging people for their looks. When you start walking in God's purpose, something seismic shifts in your soul, a transformation so profound it's like the earth splitting open to reveal a new path bathed in His radiant light. You stop sizing people up by what's on the outside. No more judging someone because their clothes aren't the latest trend, their hair's not perfectly styled, or their life doesn't match the curated perfection of a social media feed. You don't look down on them for their differences, their accent that carries the rhythm of another land, their background shaped by struggles you'll never know, or the scars they wear from battles fought in silence. When folks speak their truth, even if it's a melody that clashes with your own, you don't shut them down. You listen, you honor their voice, their story, their place in God's grand tapestry. Why? Because God's been working on your heart, chiseling away the pride, the prejudice, the smallness that once clouded your vision. He's shown you that tearing others down is a chain that binds you, not them keeping you from the freedom of His love. Psalm chapter 139 verse 14 proclaims, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Every soul you meet is God's masterpiece, painted with divine intention, sculpted with purpose, and you've learned that gossip, judgment, and petty criticism are distractions from the holy calling He's placed on your life. High-value people, the ones God's molding in His image, see beyond the surface. They see the soul, the spark of divinity in every person, the eternal worth that no mirror can reflect. True worth isn't in a flawless face, a designer label, or a polished Instagram post. It's in the character that stands firm like an oak in a storm, the kindness that heals like a balm on a wound, the actions that reflect God's boundless love. Picture a mosaic, each piece unique, some jagged, some smooth, some vibrant, some faded, yet together they form a breathtaking work of art, a reflection of God's glory. That's how you start seeing people, diverse in thoughts, backgrounds, perspectives, yet united in his design, each one a vital piece of his eternal plan. Embracing this diversity builds connections that run deeper than rivers, rooted in mutual respect and values that honor him. You seek common ground, not division, because you know that's where God's understanding takes root, where his love blooms like a garden in full spring. Your circle might shift, and that's a sign of growth, a sign that God's pruning your life for his purpose. You're drawn to those who lift others up, who carry his light, who see the divine spark in every soul, no matter how dim it seems. Instead of judging, you offer empathy, a hand extended, a heart open, a prayer whispered for their journey. You become a safe harbor, a sanctuary where others feel seen, valued, loved, and restored. Through this, you become someone others admire, not for flashy words or a loud presence, but for the quiet depth of your compassion, the way you reflect God's heart in every interaction. Your perspective shifts from judgment to curiosity, like an explorer stepping into a new world, eager to learn from every story, every struggle, every triumph. This opens doors to relationships built on authenticity, trust, and God's truth, relationships that heal brokenness, restore hope, and reflect his kingdom on earth. Let me share a story from my own life. Early in my career, I met a young man on a film set, a grip working behind the scenes, always in worn-out sneakers, hair a mess, overlooked by everyone. People judged him for his rough edges, dismissed him as less than. But I saw his hustle, his heart, the way he showed up every day with grit and grace, carrying dreams bigger than the world could see. I stopped, talked to him, learned his story, raised by a single mom, working 2 jobs to chase his dream of directing. I looked him in the eye and said, "Keep going, man. God sees you and he's got a plan." Years later, he wrote me, now a director himself, saying that moment gave him the courage to keep pushing. That's what God does when you stop judging. You become his vessel, lifting others into his light, healing their doubts with his love. Ask yourself, what's your name? And who are you judging less today? Who's God calling you to love as he loves? What's a moment you can choose empathy over judgment this week? Try this. Find one person you've overlooked, maybe a coworker, a neighbor, a stranger in line at the store. Say a prayer for them. Speak a kind word. See them through God's eyes. Write down how it feels, share it in the comments, and watch how God shifts your heart, how he uses you to heal. Sign number 2, you're punctual and committed. Now let me hit you with something straight from the soul. Something that'll light a fire under you when you're walking with God. You show up on time, every single time, like a soldier reporting to the King of Kings with a heart full of purpose. People know you for your punctuality, your rock-solid commitment, your unwavering dedication to the call God's placed on your life. You say you'll be somewhere, whether it's a boardroom, meeting where decisions shape futures, a family dinner where love is shared over a meal, or a quiet moment of prayer where you meet God face to face. You're there, heart and mind fully present, ready to serve his purpose with every fiber of your being. And when it's time to leave, you do so with the same discipline, leaving no promises unkept, no responsibilities undone, no moment wasted. God's given you time as a sacred gift, a currency more precious than gold, more fleeting than a sunrise, and high-value people know that respecting others' time is a reflection of the respect they have for themselves and for him. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 confirms, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. Your punctuality is a living prayer, a testimony to God's order, a declaration that you're ready for his assignments, no matter how big or small, no matter the cost. Think of it like a farmer tending his fields under the watchful eye of the Creator. Every seed must be planted at the precise moment, or the harvest is lost. That's what punctuality is, showing up when God calls. Not when the world says it's convenient, not when your feelings align, but when his timing demands it. People start seeing you as disciplined, professional, a beacon of God's faithfulness in a world that's often late, distracted, or half-hearted. You don't make excuses for tardiness because you know being on time is a mark of integrity, a vow kept to God and those around you. Success in life, whether it's building a career that glorifies Him, nurturing a family that reflects His love, or growing closer to God in your quiet moments, comes from showing up consistently, doing what He's called you to do when He calls you to do it. This commitment is self-discipline in action, like a muscle you strengthen with every choice to honor your word, every decision to rise above the temptation to procrastinate. It's showing up to that early morning prayer when your bed feels like a warm embrace, or a race, a work ready to serve even when the world feels like it's crumbling around you. Every minute counts, my friend, like brushstrokes on a canvas, painting the masterpiece of your life, stroke by stroke, moment by moment. Each time you're on time, you're building a reputation that opens doors professionally, personally, spiritually. People trust you, rely on you, see God's hand in your consistency, His order in your steps. I remember a time when I was young, struggling to make it in Hollywood, barely scraping by. I had an audition at 8 a.m. across town, no car, no money for a cab. I took 3 buses, woke up at 4 a.m., prayed the whole way, and got there early, sitting in the waiting room with my heart pounding and my faith holding me up. That discipline landed me a role that changed my path, a role that opened doors only God could have planned. God honors those who honor time, who treat it as His gift. He's calling you to lead by example, to let punctuality be a testament to your faith, or faith, a reflection of His perfect timing. Where are you at right now? What's your name? And how are you honoring the time God's given you? What's a moment you can show up fully this week? Here's a challenge. For the next 7 days, commit to being 5 minutes early for every appointment, every prayer, every moment God's called you to. Write down how it feels, how it shifts your perspective, how God moves through your discipline. Share it in the comments. Let's inspire each other to show up for His plan, to live as His high-value people. Sign number 3, you disagree with grace. Here's where God's strength shines through you like a lighthouse cutting through the darkest storm, guiding ships to safety. You learn that disagreeing doesn't mean disrespecting. You can sit across from someone who sees the world differently, different politics that spark debates, different beliefs that challenge your faith, different dreams that don't align with your path, and you don't raise your voice or let anger take the wheel. You listen not to outtalk them, not to prove them wrong, but to hear their heart, to understand their story, to see the humanity God placed in them, the soul He died for. Real strength, God's strength, isn't about winning arguments. It's about building bridges to souls, about reflecting His love in the heat of conflict, about showing the world what grace looks like in action. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 1 reveals, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Respect isn't earned by shouting louder. It's earned by the peace in your mind, the calm God pours into your spirit when you lean on Him, trusting His wisdom over your own instincts. High-value people see every disagreement as a divine classroom, a sacred opportunity to learn, to grow, to expand their perspective through God's lens of love and truth. You approach conversations like a student of His Word, asking questions to dig deeper, to uncover the why behind their words, even when you don't see eye to eye. Conflict isn't a cage match where someone has to lose. It's a garden where understanding can grow if you tend it with care, patience, and grace. Instead of trying to be right, you seek common ground, finding mutual respect that honors God's call to love one another, to be peacemakers in a world quick to divide. Sometimes silence is your strongest response, like a quiet river carving through stone, steady, powerful, patient, cutting deeper than any shout ever could. Staying calm in the face of opposition marks you as mature, someone who values God's peace over pride, His unity over division. Picture a moment you were in a heated debate, maybe with a coworker who challenged your ideas, a family member who didn't understand your choices, or a stranger online whose words felt like a personal attack. Your blood boiled, your words sharpened, but then you heard God's whisper, "Be still and know that I am God." You paused, you prayed, and you chose grace. I've been there on a film set years ago. A producer's harsh words hit me like a slap. My pride wanted to fight to defend my ground, but God said, "Listen, Denzel." I did, and we found a solution that honored us both, that built a bridge instead of a wall. That's God's way: grace over anger, love over pride. You don't need to shout to be heard. Your actions, your poise, your faith speak louder than any argument. People notice this. They see a soul anchored in God's love, unshaken by the storm, radiating His light in the darkness. This grace doesn't just resolve conflicts, it heals. It mends relationships, softens hearts, and shows the world what God's love looks like in action. It's like planting a seed in someone's heart, trusting God to make it grow. What's your name? And how are you showing His grace in your disagreements? What's a conflict you're facing right now, a misunderstanding, a difference of opinion, a wound that needs healing? God's calling you to be His peacemaker, to reflect His love even when the world pushes you to fight. Try this next time you're tempted to argue. Take a deep breath, say a silent prayer, and ask, "Lord, what's the loving response here?" Then act on it, whether it's a kind word, a question to understand, or silence that speaks louder than words. Share how it changes the moment in the comments. Let's learn from each other how to walk in His grace, how to heal through His love. Sign number 4, you build people up. Listen close, because this is where God's love flows through you like a river breaking through a dam, flooding the world with hope, healing, and transformation. Encouraging others doesn't dim your light, it sets your soul ablaze in His glory, illuminating everything around you with His divine radiance. You start recognizing people for their efforts, not just their victories. A high-value person sees the journey, the late nights of study under a flickering lamp, the quiet tears of perseverance in the face of failure, the small steps taken in faith through a valley of doubt, not just the finish line of success. They know greatness is forged in the furnace of persistence, tempered by God's grace. And they're not afraid to look someone in the eye and say, "I see your work. I see your heart. Keep going, because God's got you, and He's never let you down." Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24 urges, "Let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds." When you lift others up, you're planting seeds in God's garden, seeds that grow into a harvest of success, healing, and hope for them, and for you, a harvest that glorifies His name. Imagine a community where everyone's cheering, not for their own glory, but for each other, like a choir singing in harmony to praise God, their voices rising to the heavens. That's the culture you're building when you celebrate others' wins, no matter how small. A kind word to a coworker struggling with a project, a nod to a child practicing their lines for a school play, a prayer for a friend chasing a dream against all odds. High-value people are secure in their own blessings, knowing God's favor is an ocean, vast and boundless, with enough for everyone. You find joy in watching others rise, because you know they're not your competition. They're brothers and sisters in Christ, walking the same journey toward His light, carrying their own crosses, seeking His grace. Success isn't a pie with limited slices. It's a feast at God's table, where every soul is invited to partake, to be filled with His abundance. By lifting others, you're lifting yourself, creating a community of support that strengthens you through life's storms. Everyone's got their battles, grief that lingers like a shadow, doubt that whispers lies, fear that grips the heart like a vice. When you acknowledge their progress, you're not just inspiring them, you're partnering with God to heal their wounds, to restore their hope, to remind them of His promises. Encouragement becomes your ministry, a sacred habit that transforms lives, that builds bridges where walls once stood. I remember a young actor I met years ago, drowning in self-doubt, ready to quit. His eyes were heavy with defeat, but I saw his effort, his heart, the fire God put in him. I pulled him aside and said, "God's got a stage for you, keep going. Don't let the world dim your light." Today he's directing films, touching lives, all because someone believed in him. That's the power of encouragement. It's God's love in action. A healing balm for a hurting world. Who are you cheering for today? What's their name, and how are you helping them see God's light in their journey? What's a struggle you see someone facing, a coworker, a family member, a stranger? Here's a challenge this week. Encourage 3 people every day. Write a note, make a call, speak life into their dreams. Tell them I see you and God sees you. Then write down how it felt, how it changed you both, and share it in the comments. Watch how God multiplies your words, how He uses you to heal and uplift, how He turns your encouragement into a ripple effect of His love. Sign number 5, you don't let others define your limits. Here's a moment that'll set your spirit on fire, a turning point that'll shake the heavens and earth. When people tell you, you can't, it doesn't shake you anymore. You stop letting their doubts, their fears, their small thinking define your God-given potential. You know their words are about their own insecurities, their own limitations, not your reality. You're in control of your destiny, guided by God's mighty hand, not the fleeting opinions of the world. Philippians chapter 4, verse 13 declares, I can do all this through Him who gives me strength. This is the moment you stop chasing applause from others and start listening to God's voice, the one who called you before the stars were hung, before the mountains were formed, before time itself began. People project their fears like shadows, dark and fleeting, but those shadows can't touch the light God's placed in you. Instead of feeling discouraged, you're ignited not out of spite, but to prove to yourself what God's made you capable of achieving. Picture yourself as an eagle, wings spread wide, soaring above a raging storm, unbothered by the winds of doubt below, guided by the breath of God's Spirit. You embrace an abundant mindset, knowing your potential is limitless in His hands, like a river that knows no banks, flowing freely toward His purpose. This confidence empowers you to take bold risks, to start that business when everyone says it's crazy, to write that book when no one believes in your story, to chase that dream others call impossible. The naysayers' voices fade, drowned out by God's truth roaring in your soul like a lion, proclaiming your destiny. I've been there early in my career. People told me I'd never make it as an actor. You don't have the look, they said. You don't have the connections, but God said otherwise. I leaned into His promise, worked harder than ever, prayed deeper than ever, and trusted His plan. Every no became fuel, not a roadblock, pushing me closer to His vision for me. You trust your instincts, have faith in your abilities, and rise above the noise of doubt. High-value people know their worth comes from God's purpose, not the world's approval. Once you hold tight to that truth, there's no mountain too high, no ocean too wide, no dream too big. What's your name, and what limits are you breaking free from today? What dream is God whispering to your heart? What's the cant you're hearing from the world, maybe from a boss, a friend, even yourself? Here's a step. Write down one dream you've been told is impossible. Pray over it, then take one action toward it today. Make a call, do some research, take a small step. Write down how it feels, share it in the comments, and let's declare God's promises together. He's got your back, and He's calling you to soar, to break every limit, to live as His high-value person. Sign number 6, you stand up for people, even when they're not around. High-value people, God's people, stand up for others, even when they're not in the room to defend themselves. You speak well of folks behind their backs, friends, colleagues, family, even strangers who the world overlooks. When someone tries to tear them down with gossip, slander, or judgment, you don't join in. You protect their name like a warrior guarding a sacred flame, like a shepherd watching over God's flock with unwavering loyalty. That's integrity, my friend, doing what's right when it's not easy, when no one's watching, when the world tempts you to take the low road. God sees every word, every intention, and He honors those who honor others with His love. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 8 urges, speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. You value loyalty, kindness, fairness, qualities that reflect God's heart, qualities that heal wounds, restore dignity, and build trust in a broken world. Your words are like stones dropped in a pond, sending ripples of hope or harm far beyond what you see. When you choose to uplift instead of tear down, you're building trust, showing you're a vessel of God's honesty and respect, a beacon of His truth. Your actions inspire others like a spark igniting a wildfire of kindness. They see your heart and want to follow your lead, to walk in God's truth. Gossip and negativity. That's not your path. You know those things poison the soul, pulling you away from God's purpose, dimming His light in you. Integrity means doing right in the shadows where only God sees, and that includes how you speak about others in their absence. I recall a moment early in my career when a colleague was being trashed behind his back, people mocking his work, his dreams, his struggles. I could have stayed silent, but God nudged me, stirred my spirit. I said, "Hold up, that's not who he is. Let's talk about his hustle, his heart, the way he never gives up." That choice didn't just protect him, it shifted the room, built trust, and showed everyone what God's love looks like in action. It was like planting a seed of hope in a barren field, trusting God to make it grow. You stand firm in His values, and people respect you for it, seeing you as a rock, a safe haven in a world quick to judge. You become known as someone whose words build bridges, not burn them. Someone who carries God's love in every conversation, healing hearts with every word. This integrity is a shield, a sword, a testimony to your faith. It's choosing to speak life when the world speaks death, to defend the absent when it's easier to stay quiet. It's a reflection of God's character, a commitment to His justice. Where you at right now? Whose name are you lifting up in God's light? What's a moment you can stand up for someone this week? A coworker being unfairly criticized, a friend being misunderstood, a stranger being dismissed. Try this. When you hear gossip, shut it down with kindness, say something positive, change the subject, pray for the person being discussed. Write down how it feels, share it in the comments, and let's see how God uses you to shift the atmosphere, to heal through your words. Let's be His warriors, speaking life wherever we go, building a world that reflects His love. Sign number 7, you choose not to react to everything. Now let me tell you about a power so deep, so divine, it's like a fire burning in your bones. A strength that can move mountains. You notice everything, the slight in the coworker's tone, the argument flaring up at the dinner table, the injustice flashing across your newsfeed, the challenges that test your faith like a crucible. But here's the revelation: you don't have to react to everything. You choose your battles with the wisdom of a general in God's army, letting His steady hand guide your emotions instead of letting them run wild like a storm tearing through a forest. James chapter 1 verse 19 advises, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak and slow to become angry. That's the hallmark of true strength, choosing God's peace over the world's chaos, even when it's screaming your name, daring you to dive into the fray. High-value people know not every situation deserves their energy. You're selective, like a master sculptor, chiseling away only what doesn't belong, saving your strength for God's purpose. Your inner peace, His sacred gift, is worth more than proving a point or winning a fleeting argument. You develop a calm, a patience, a stillness like the quiet before dawn, knowing most things are temporary, like footprints washed away by the tide. Pausing before reacting. That's not weakness. That's wisdom, self-control. God's hand steadying your heart like an anchor in a hurricane. It sets you apart from the impulsive, those who let every spark ignite a wildfire. You're different, you're anchored in His truth, unshaken by the world's noise. Picture a moment you wanted to lash out, maybe a hurtful comment from a friend, a misunderstanding with a loved one, a post online that hit you wrong. Your blood boiled, your words sharpened, but then you heard God's whisper, "Be still and know that I am God." You paused, you prayed, and you chose peace. I've been there on a film set. A producer's harsh words hit me like a slap. My pride wanted to fight, but God said, "Wait, Denzel." I walked away, prayed, and came back with clarity, not anger. That choice didn't just save the moment, it built respect, opened doors, and showed God's power in me. That's the strength of restraint. It's like a river carving a canyon, slow but unstoppable, shaping the world with patience. This discipline isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about stewarding your energy for God's mission. Every reaction you withhold is a deposit in your spiritual bank, saving strength for battles that matter, defending the weak, pursuing your calling, loving the unlovable. You start to see life like a chess game. Every move matters, but not every piece needs to be played at once. You ask, is this worth my peace? Is this God's fight for me? Most times it's not. You let go, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to trust God's timing. This restraint builds your credibility like bricks in a fortress. People see you as unshakable, a lighthouse standing firm while waves crash around you. That calm under pressure, it's God's strength shining through, drawing others to you like moths to a flame, inspiring them to seek His peace. What's your name and what battles are you letting go of today? What's a moment you can choose peace over chaos this week? Here's a challenge. When you're tempted to react, take 10 seconds. Breathe. Pray, Lord, guide me. Then decide, does this deserve your energy, or is God calling you to let it go? Write down the outcome, share it in the comments, and let's see how God transforms the moment, how He heals through your choice to walk in His peace. Let's be His peacemakers, showing the world the power of His calm. Sign number 8, you embrace your imperfections as God's design. Here's a truth that'll set your soul free, a revelation that'll lift the weight of the world off your shoulders. You start to embrace your imperfections, seeing them not as flaws but as God's unique design, a testament to His creative hand. You stop beating yourself up for your mistakes, your weaknesses, the parts of you that don't fit the world's mold. Instead, you see them as part of the story God's writing through your life, a story that glorifies Him. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 9 reveals, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." You understand that your imperfections are opportunities for God's strength to shine, for His grace to flow, for His love to transform you into His masterpiece. High-value people don't strive for perfection, they strive for progress, trusting God's process. You recognize that your struggles, your quirks, your unique journey are part of His divine plan, shaping you into a vessel for His purpose. Picture a cracked pot, still holding water, still serving its purpose, its imperfections allowing light to shine through. That's you, beautifully broken, perfectly designed by God to carry His light. You stop comparing yourself to others. Stop chasing the world's standards of success and start embracing the unique calling God's placed on your life. This shift changes everything. You approach your challenges with gratitude, knowing they're refining you, making you stronger, drawing you closer to Him. You share your vulnerabilities with others, not to boast, but to show how God works through your weaknesses, how He turns ashes into beauty. I've had my share of imperfections, moments of doubt, fear, failure. Early in my career, I stumbled in auditions, felt like I wasn't enough. But God showed me that every stumble was a step toward His plan, every weakness a canvas for His strength. You start to see your scars as badges of faith, your struggles as testimonies of His grace. This mindset frees you to take risks, to try new things, to live boldly for God. You're not afraid to fail because you know failure is part of His refining fire. You inspire others by being real, by showing that God's power shines through your imperfections. What's your name, and what imperfection are you embracing today? What's a weakness God's turning into strength? Try this. Write down one thing you've been ashamed of, a mistake, a flaw. Pray, Lord, use this for your glory. Then share how God's working through it in the comments. Let's celebrate His design, His perfect plan in our imperfect lives. Sign number 9. You pursue lifelong growth. High-value people, God's people, never stop growing. They pursue lifelong growth, seeking to become better, wiser, closer to God every day. You don't settle for complacency, for good enough. You hunger for His truth, His wisdom, His purpose, knowing that growth is a lifelong journey of becoming more like Christ. You read, learn, pray, reflect, always seeking to align your life with His will. Proverbs chapter 4 verse 7 states, "The beginning of wisdom is this, get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding." You understand that growth is a sacred pursuit, a commitment to God's refining process, a journey of transformation that glorifies Him. You seek out challenges that stretch you, opportunities that push you beyond your comfort zone, because you know that's where God's growth happens. You listen to feedback, not as criticism, but as a gift to help you improve. You surround yourself with people who inspire you, who challenge you to rise higher, who reflect God's truth. Picture a tree, always reaching for the sun, its roots digging deeper, its branches spreading wider. That's you. Growing in God's light, rooted in His Word, bearing fruit for His kingdom. I've never stopped learning, whether it's studying new roles, reading scripture, or listening to the wisdom of others. Every lesson, every challenge, every moment of growth has brought me closer to God's purpose. You embrace new skills, new perspectives, new ways to serve Him, knowing that each step forward is a step toward His glory. You inspire others by your commitment to growth, showing them that God's work in you is never finished. What's your name, and what's one way you're growing today? What's a new skill, habit, or truth God's teaching you? Try this. Commit to learning something new this week, a Bible verse, a skill, a perspective. Write down your progress, share it in the comments, and let's grow together in His wisdom. Sign number 10, you live with gratitude. Finally, high-value people live with gratitude, seeing every moment, every blessing, every challenge as a gift from God's hand. You don't focus on what you lack, you give thanks for what you have, knowing that every breath is a miracle, every day a chance to glorify Him. You cultivate a heart of gratitude, praising God in the highs and lows, trusting His plan even when it's hard to see. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 18 declares, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." Gratitude transforms your perspective, turning trials into testimonies, hardships into holy ground, moments into miracles. You start each day with a prayer of thanks, acknowledging God's goodness, His provision, His presence. You notice the small things, the sunrise, a kind word, a moment of peace, and you see them as God's love letters to you. Picture a cup overflowing with water, spilling out to bless others. That's your heart, filled with gratitude, pouring out His love. You express gratitude to others, thanking them for their impact, showing them God's appreciation through your words. I've learned to live with gratitude even in the toughest times. When I face setbacks in my career, I thank God for the lessons, for the strength, for the doors He opened. Gratitude kept my heart soft, my faith strong. You inspire others by living with gratitude, showing them how to find joy in God's presence. What's your name, and what are you thankful for today? What's a blessing, big or small, that God's given you? Try this. Keep a gratitude journal for a week. Write down 3 things each day you're thankful for. Share one in the comments, and let's fill the world with God's praise. My friend, becoming a high-value person isn't about chasing perfection. It's about progress, about surrendering to God's chisel as He shapes you into His masterpiece, a vessel of His love, His purpose, His glory. If you're seeing these signs in your life, stopping judgment, showing up on time, disagreeing with grace, lifting others up, breaking free from others' limits, defending the absent, choosing peace, embracing imperfections, pursuing growth, living with gratitude, you're not just adding value to your life. You're transforming the world around you, shining God's light into the darkest corners, healing broken hearts with His love, building a legacy that echoes into eternity. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31 promises, "Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." That's you, my friend, soaring above the storms, running toward His calling, walking in His victory, unshaken by the chaos below. This journey is a marathon, not a sprint, a pilgrimage through valleys and mountaintops guided by God's hand. Every step you take, every choice to love, to show up, to stay calm, to grow is a brick in the foundation of the life He's building through you. You're not just living for yourself, you're living for the colleague who needs your encouragement, the stranger who needs your kindness, the world that needs your light. I've walked this road through rejection, doubt, long nights questioning my path. People said I'd never make it, that I wasn't enough. But God's voice was louder than the noise, His plan clearer than the fog. He took a kid from Mount Vernon and made him a voice for His glory. He's got the same for you, a purpose bigger than your pain, a destiny brighter than your fears, a calling that will shake the heavens. So what's your story? What's God doing in your heart right now? Drop amen in the comments and declare His truth over your life. Share this message with someone who needs to feel His love, a friend lost in their struggles, A family member searching for hope. A stranger God's placed on your path. Hit that like button. Subscribe, turn on notifications. Let's build a community of faith. A family of believers lifting each other higher every day. What's your name? Where you at? What dream is God whispering to your soul? What hurt is He calling you to heal? Take a moment today, write down one way you'll live as His high-value person. Maybe it's a kind word to a stranger, a punctual arrival to honor your commitments, a silent prayer instead of an argument, a step toward growth, a moment of gratitude. Then do it. Share it in the comments, inspire someone else, and watch how God multiplies your faith, how He heals through your obedience. Let's keep moving forward together, claiming His blessings, healing through His grace, shining as His chosen. You're not alone on this journey. I'm with you, praying for you, believing in you. You're a light in the darkness, a warrior in His army, a high-value person crafted for His glory. Thank you for being here, for choosing to rise, for daring to be the person God created you to be. Let's walk this path in His strength. Together, forever changed, forever His. Drop a 100 in the comments if you're part of the 1% improving every day. Let's show the world what God's people can do.